So in this lesson, we're just going to look at something called 3D Formulae, which sounds actually more impressive than it really is. So I've got Excel here. I'm going to go to Lessons. I'm then going to add a new sheet. And as we've been doing all the way through, call this 3D Formulae. And a 3D formulae is nothing more than a formula, so equals, that refers to something on another sheet. So if I go to this sheet here, it automatically in the formula says named ranges, and I can simply grab that one. So it's going to the sheet called named ranges, exclamation mark G2. And you don't have to remember that because Excel will sort it out for you. And that's the value there. That's simply copying the value from one location to the next location. So it's not a bad thing to do. It's quite nice and easy. And that's all 3D formula are. They are simply formulae that takes data from another sheet and copies it into the current sheet that it's on. And you can do named ranges. So I can do 3D formulae. I can do the sum, and I can go to the named ranges area and select all of those and close the brackets down and press enter. Now notice with this one I've used the name range, so it's not even worried about using the values as regards the 3D model. I can't see sum 2, but it's referring back to here. Now if we have a look back here, I can then say equals, go to the sum function, and if I do, so I forgot to put the formula in, so if I do the sum of all of those, go to the end there, then select all of that and close the brackets. Now notice because of my error it's put this twice, so I just need to remove the second reference to it. Press enter and I've got the calculation result for that, and all it's doing is summing these up. We know it's 82 and it's given that to me here. So a 3D formula is nothing more than a formula that isn't just left to right or up and down on this sheet, but goes through another dimension into the other sheets that you've got on there. And that's it. It's that simple. Okay. Another quite nice quick lesson here. What we're going to look at is the insertion of shapes. If I go to the insert menu and then go to shapes, I've got a whole range of shapes that I can use. These are common across a lot of the Microsoft products, but I can choose these and simply draw them. Now the important thing to know about shapes is they are independent of cells, so they don't matter. They're not tied to any of the cell references, so I can move them where I like. I can change their colors, or I can choose to use a shape fill and again change their color that way, or use more fill colors, which we've seen before. I can use the custom, the RGB, the hex values, or simply use the standard color code from there. The other thing I can do in here is choose a gradient. So I might decide that I want there to be a gradient or even a texture if I'm not very keen on choosing a color. So there's a number of things I can do with these. Obviously I've got a context menu and I can choose things in there. And there's one of them there which is edit text. And yes, you can add text to the system. And if I do that, that appears there. And I can use the formatting tools to help sort my text out in there. I can use all of those without any issue because the system recognizes that this is simply text. I can choose whatever color I like, make it bold, make it larger, so I can treat this as I want. That's a little bit large, so let's go to something a bit more reasonable, even though there's a fish on it. If I choose another shape, so insert shape, and I choose this one, then I get a few more controls. This is a rectangle with curved corners, but I can emphasize those curved corners. So I can decide how curved, no curve to a little curve to a lot of curve. And so I can alter those. Aside from that, it's got the same settings. I can change the outline, which is just what's around the outside. And if I want to, that's not very clear, so I can change the weight of the line. And as you can see, I can choose very large borders. They're very garish, but that's fine. I can go to insert shape, and I have a multitude of other ones that I can draw. So things like that if I wanted to. And again, this time the menu changes to highlight that I can choose different colors in a different way, but it recognizes it as a line style. And I can even choose shape. If I choose this one again, the first one, I've got shape effects, which allows me to do things such as a dropped shadow if that's what I'd like to do. So this is not unusual to Excel. These shapes exist in Microsoft Word and in Publisher and in PowerPoint. So they appear throughout the Microsoft product range, and they're really useful. They're really useful because you can get them not just to add text to them, but we can actually add a link to them and hyperlink them to places on the web, places in the document, or get them to email me if I wanted them to. Okay, that's shapes. Hopefully that's been enough for you. I'll see you in the next lesson, where we're just going to have a brief look at images. In this lesson, we're going to be just looking at images, and it's very, very simple. I've created a tab called images. So we've got this new sheet, and all I've gone to is insert on the menu bar, and there's an option called pictures. If I click on pictures, I've got three options. One is to go to this device. Now, obviously, those are images that I've got on my local computer. Obscure ones, but they're there for this purpose. So I've got one called Battleship. You're probably aware of where I'm going to use that. And I've got two that seem to have the same name. And the reason for that is because of the extension. Excel limits the file type by this group here. And if I move my mouse over top, you can see the groups of images that it would accept. And it's a wide range. It's got everything really you should come across. But be aware that if you can't see a file in here, it's not an image. So it's not an image file extension. And those letters at the end, the EMF, the WMF, the JPG, the JPEG, and so on, refers to that last part there called the extension. That's a .jpg or JPEG file. This is a PNG file. So to open one of those, to insert one of those, I simply click on the image I want, and it appears. And just like shapes, it is independent of cells. So I can place that wherever I like. I can resize it. I can do whatever I wish with that to a certain degree. I also get a new menu that we've not had before, which is picture format. And if I click on that, that's what I'm automatically given here. And I can decide to style it by putting a shadow behind it. I can do some picture effects. There's the shadow. Build a reflection. Reflections do... Well, they're difficult to see in this kind of image, but if I do that, it reflects it just down there. You can see that there, and that's quite nice. And then you've got different types of layout, how you want to present the images. You can crop the image, which simply means to cut it. So if I click on there, I can trim this image down, and as soon as I click away, the image is now smaller. If I click down, I can crop to shape, which means I could turn around and say, well, I want it shaped like that, and it will do that for me as well. I can equally crop with an aspect ratio, so change the ratio in that respect. And I'm really undoing my duck enormously, but what I can do, if I go too far, which clearly I am, I can hold down Control and do Z, or just use the undo button, and obviously it will put everything back to normal. Clicking on there, if I click away, by the way, the menu will change, because obviously when I click away, the picture format disappears. And unlike when I insert the image, it automatically goes to the picture format. When I click back, it doesn't. So I have to remember to go back to the picture format, which is there. And then I've got all those options available to me again. If I want to rotate the image, I can do so by specifics. So rotate right. And if I want to get 180, I just do that twice. I'll carry on rotating right, otherwise that's just not going to work. So there you go. I can flip, or I can flip the other way. And if I want more control, I can go to more rotation options. Just show you that again, more rotation options, and then I can actually alter it as I specifically want. So if I felt that I wanted 32.5 degrees, then I can do that. It will round it to 32. There's the shadow. It's all very, very clever. There's the scale, height and width, so I can change the image there, and that's a percentile of its original. So if I decided, I could tell it to do 100, and it makes the image very, very large. And what I'm going to do is go back to there, Control Z, Control Z. Control Z is the same as undo. Control Y is the same as redo. So if you undo something and you want to do it again, just Control Y, or just use the arrow button there. So I have a lot of controls on here. If I want to change the way the image looks, so I can wash it out more by adding more brightness or darken it, and I can certainly do more controls on the image simply by adjusting the brightness, making it brighter, way over the top, or making it darker, or just resetting it so we can see what we're looking at. Contrast enhances or doesn't, and so we can play with that. And the sharpness of the image, if we do that, you can see that it enhances the edges between the pixels and gives us a much sharper image, while that creates a more blurred effect. And I'll reset that. We've then got things like picture color, so we can do saturation of different colors. We can, by the way, you can choose presets there and they'll help. You've got color tone, so making it warmer or less warm. That's very cold duck. Picture transparency, so transparency, how much can I see through the image to see the content behind? And then there's the crop tool that we've already seen. And if I click back, I've then got that transparency option, and picture transparency will take me to the same option we had a second ago. So quite often when you click on these menus, it takes you to a menu that contains lots of others. We've got artistic effects. So if you wanted to have a slightly weird colored image, it's there. If you want to see it as a pixeled block, you can have that. You can have it charcoal, is it chalk sketch it's called, or that one is pencil grayscale. All very, very clever, very impressive. Compress pictures. Oh, I left one on there. Let's just take that back. Click back there. Picture. Compress pictures simply means it will reduce the picture definition, so it reduces the file size. Because once you add this to Excel, that will increase your file size. And if you're planning on transporting this anywhere, it's going to take up a lot of more memory, take longer to send over the internet, for example. Vast quantities of data with images on there will take up a lot of time to send. So it's up to you. If I've got the wrong image, I can actually choose to change image, and I can reset the image from everything I did before. So reset image, reset size, and so that puts that all back. I'm going to keep the size, otherwise it fills it out. And that's really it. The only other one really is this remove background option. So clicking on the image, choose remove background, and it selects the background that it thinks you want to remove. It identifies the main image and selects that. If there's areas you want to keep, then you can click on there and mark the area you want to keep, and that will bring that back. And if you want to mark areas that you want to remove, then again, it will add that to the list. If you want to discard all changes, it's done. And so that's inserting images, and that's inserting that image. Just to clarify, I had the other duck image in there. If I click there to this device, because this is a PNG file, and the difference between those is PNGs allow you to have transparencies. So you saw the fact that I could remove the background from there. And if I did the remove background and I simply said keep changes, then I've got that transparency. PNGs automatically support transparencies, JPEGs don't. So Excel allows you to remove that, which is a really nice little feature of JPEG, to work with JPEGs. But you know, PNGs is a file type that supports that, and high definition images. So just like JPEGs can handle photographs, but unlike JPEGs can also handle transparency backgrounds. And all the different file types have their own strengths and weaknesses. The only other thing we've got in there, insert pictures. We've also got stock images. If I click on stock images, then Microsoft Excel will offer me a series of images that they've got themselves. Now, I haven't run this. It takes quite a long time for this to load up, but after a while, you will start to get images. If I type in duck, then it will start to pull up images that they've got on the web related to ducks. And just like the images I had here, all images under this are under the Commons usage license. And that's the same thing with the stock images from there. You are freely allowed to use them for whatever purpose without restriction. Just double check that before you use any images. Obviously, if you're using them for commercial purposes, you can get into a lot of trouble by using images incorrectly. I can use online pictures. If I want to use online pictures, then again, this will use Bing to search, and then I can select the criteria I want, and it will go off. And again, Creative Commons only. And so it will start to do that, and I can search and use the tools there. So I have 3 significant ways of being able to get images onto my Excel spreadsheet: off of my device, through stock images that Excel is connected to, and online images using the Bing search engine. Okay, that's images. See you next video.